Good Morning Brew Daily Show. I'm Neil Fryman.
And I'm Toby Howell.
Today, the mysterious man who broke ChatGPT.
Then, what is private credit and why is it suddenly the hottest market on Wall Street? It's Wednesday, December 4th. Let's ride. If you got a disappointed text from your parents yesterday, it was likely because Forbes dropped their annual 30 under 30 list, celebrating movers and shakers in various industries who don't have lower back pain yet. Alex Cooper of Call Her Daddy fame highlighted this year's class. Jason Tatum rode the success of his step back jumper to snag a spot. And Jacob Elordi got on for just being tall and handsome and really talented at acting, I guess. Neil, any takeaways from this year's crop of youths?
Yeah, well, I didn't see your name, Toby.
Oh, you had to bring it up.
I'm 33. Like, I don't even think about the 30 under 30, but you're still under 30. And I was looking at your name. There's 20 different industries. I mean, this is not a 30-person list. This is a 600-person list. They choose from fintech, media, celebrities, sports, etc. And, you know, I just didn't see. I was looking from H and I went to I, and there was no how.
Here's the thing, Neil. I got 3 more years, okay? My lower back pain hasn't kicked in yet. So, yes, I didn't make it this year, but hey, there's always next year, right? And the year after that, and the year after that. Now, a word from our sponsor, Yahoo Finance. Neil, the Olympics are long gone, but I still want to talk about gold, silver, and bronze today.
For the last time, Toby, we are not doing a Morning Brew Office Olympics. Curling with coworkers in the office chairs is not HR approved.
No, I'm not talking about the MB Office Olympiad, which will happen at some point. I'm talking about Yahoo Finance's premium tiers.
I have seen this on their site. They have 3 different tiers geared toward helping investors of all levels.
Bronze is aimed at more passive investors if you just want to monitor your 401ks or IRAs.
Silver is best for your stock, ETF, and mutual fund investors.
And finally, gold is a must-have if you are actively trading stocks, options, crypto, and more.
So what tier do you fall into?
Oh, I'm tier purple, which just means I'm tier Yahoo Finance as a whole. Free, premium, the whole shebang. If you want to check out the whole shebang or any of the tiers mentioned, head to yahoofinance.com.
Lots of big news abroad to report on, so we're going to kick off the show by discussing a trio of major happenings in South Korea, China, and France. First, South Korea plunged into chaos yesterday after President Yoon Suk-yeol abruptly declared martial law late Tuesday night, banning all, quote, political activities and enabling him to take control of the news media in the world's 13th largest economy. Yoon said the measure was necessary because the opposition party was too sympathetic to adversary North Korea and threatened the country's constitutional order. Korean stocks plunged on this absolutely shocking news, and the country's currency, the won, cratered nearly 3% against the dollar. With the martial law declaration swiftly condemned as a dangerous, cynical political ploy by other politicians, including Yoon's own party, the National Assembly convened just a few hours later and voted to end martial law by a count of, get this, 190 to 0. Yoon seemed to get the message and lifted the emergency martial law decree less than 5 hours after it began, prompting Korean stocks and the won to rebound off their lows. Still, Toby, this unrest cannot spur investor confidence that South Korea has its political house in order, especially since it's one of the most trade-reliant countries in the world.
I was getting lots of texts and conversations yesterday saying, what is going on in South Korea right now? It truly was a wild day. I mean, you just look at the index that tracks 90 large mid-sized companies over in South Korea. It tumbled as much as 7% yesterday. It reached a 52-week low on just these fears of unrest in the country. 35 million shares of this index changed hands yesterday. That was 10 times the 30-day average volume. So clearly there was a lot of anxiety going on within Korea's stock market. And you're right, it does. South Korea is a critical partner with the United States over there, just as kind of a hedge against China dominance in the region as well. But also, you are right, South Korea is uniquely situated as a major trade partner for a lot of nations as well. So that was why there's a lot of attention focused on this political unrest in the country.
Yeah, and so moving forward, what's happening now is that the Central Bank of Korea met and they said they would supply as much liquidity as needed. That seemed to calm markets. The won is back to about where it was before this whole shebang started. The stock market has increased and they're doing trading. So they haven't closed down the stock market. Meanwhile, Yoon looks like he's going to be in some hot water for this ploy, the opposition party has brought measures to impeach him, and that'll move through the National Assembly in the next few days. His approval ratings were already below 20%, so maybe that was one reason why he took this step in the first place.
Yeah, first time declaring martial law in the country since the 1980s, so clearly a big swing and a big miss at this point. Let's move on to China for our next international headline. China clapped back against recent U.S. trade restrictions by tightening export controls on critical raw materials used for semiconductor manufacturing, citing national security concerns. The high-stakes game of tag, you're it, no, you're it, was set off when the U.S. limited China's access to its own advanced AI chips as the two largest economies in the world gear up for round 2 of trade drama in Trump's second term. The list of materials on China's no-no list include gallium, germanium, and antimony, all necessary raw components of both semiconductor or battery manufacturing. What has Washington a little caught off guard, though, was just how quick Beijing's response was. In previous instances when the U.S. beefed up its no-trade list in regards to China, Beijing usually waited months or weeks before responding, but this response came just 1 day later, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, this has escalated to, honestly, all-out supply chain warfare. How these critical semiconductors are made that power our modern economy is China has the raw materials, the tungstens of the world, the antimony, the galliums, the germaniums, things you may not think are critical to our modern economy, but they absolutely are because they're made to use semiconductors. They ship them to the United States and other developed economies that make chips, and then the United States sells them back to China that are extremely advanced, and now we have AI chips. So this is a very tightly interconnected global economy when it comes to semiconductors, where there's a lot of billions of dollars of goods going back and forth. And these countries are at the same time adversaries, and they don't want each other to make the most advanced semiconductors because those can be used in weapons and other advanced technologies. But at the same time, they need each other. So you see this delicate balance playing out, but that has happened for the past few years or so, where there's been this, they call it tit for tat. It's been these minor nicks, but now it looks like the gloves are off because these are both dramatic escalations this week.
I do just want to reiterate how important these minerals are. The U.S. Geological Survey deems gallium, germanium, antimony among 50 minerals that the U.S. Are critical to the economic or national security of the U.S. And the problem is that China produces 98% of the world's gallium, 60% of the world's germanium, and between the periods of 2019 and 2022, the U.S. imported all of its gallium and about half of its germanium. So you talk about a delicate supply chain. You talk about someone who controls the world's supply of these critical minerals, and that is why we're talking about such a delicate trade negotiation between these two powerhouses.
Yeah, and major corporations like NVIDIA and Intel are watching these extremely closely, and so are shareholders, because NVIDIA got 12% of its entire quarterly revenue from China, from selling its chips to China. So if the U.S. government blocks those sales, which it seems like it's going to be doing, then that cuts off a major sales source for the big chip makers. And who knows what will happen with the incoming Trump administration. They appear to be even more hawkish on China. Finally, let's head to France, where the political dysfunction is on par with South Korea's. Today, French lawmakers will hold a no-confidence vote, and if it passes as expected, it will topple the government and send Prime Minister Michel Barnier packing with the shortest tenure of any since France's Fifth Republic was founded in 1958. France's legislature has been fractured and at a stalemate since snap elections in July, but the near-term cause of an impending government collapse is a budget introduced by Barnier that has pleased no one. France has a rapidly ballooning deficit it needs to get under control, and Barnier went all out with the austerity measures to do that. The budget calls for slashing $42 billion in spending while raising taxes by more than $20 billion, which angered both the left and the right for different reasons. So that brings us to today's no-confidence vote, which has brought a great deal of uncertainty to Europe's second largest economy. Barnier has warned of a storm in markets if he's dismissed from power, and borrowing rates are already soaring in France due to the political turmoil. Toby, if this vote passes, France will have no functioning government and no budget with less than a month to go before the year-end deadline. That's uncharted territory.
Yeah, this is a really high-stakes game of chicken right now. You have Le Pen and the French government just kind of staring each other down, and you have global investors looking on very closely because who is financing the country's huge debt load at this point. It is a lot of global investors.
Right. So that's what borrowing costs are rising because investors are selling off their bonds because they're not confident in the French economy. Meanwhile, the French stock market has been lagging its peers in Europe for the majority of the year. The spread between its performance, the CAC 40 index, and Germany's DAX index, that is its biggest annual underperformance for France since 1993. Meanwhile, the benchmark equity index is on track for its worst year relative to European shares since 2010. And it looks like that slide could continue if the government enters this limbo space where they don't have a budget, they don't have a government, with the year-end deadline rapidly approaching.
You probably know BlackRock as the world's largest asset manager, a title that mostly stems from its index funds popular with everyday investors like you and me. But this week, it acquired HPS Investment Partners, spending $12 billion to get into the fast-growing world of private credit, which is suddenly one of the hottest markets on Wall Street. HPS's business model involves lending money directly to companies, a job that's typically been reserved for banks. But as banks have dialed back the risk they take when lending post-financial crisis, private credit has swooped in to pick up the slack. HPS now manages nearly $150 billion in loans, making it a tasty target for an asset manager of BlackRock's size. But why are these big money managers suddenly gaga for private credit? Well, if you're BlackRock and you already have $11 trillion under management, you are incentivized to find new alternative asset classes to get institutional investors excited about giving you their money. Historically, this world of private credit loans made to corporations and consumers has been difficult to actually trade, but the general consensus is that outlook is outdated at this point. They're just loans after all. Why does it matter if a bank or HPS, for example, makes them? So Neil, now there's a bit of a rush to build up a trading market for this growing world of private credit.
There is. I mean, BlackRock is manages $11.5 trillion, is the largest asset manager in the world. However, it trades about at the same value as private equity giants like KKR, Ares, Apollo Global Management, who have pioneered this private credit model. And so you're saying, why does BlackRock, with its massive AUM, so comparable to these much smaller companies? It's because BlackRock owns the market for ETFs, which it can't charge a very high fee for because there's a very competitive market. But in the private credit market, you can charge much higher fees. So you see BlackRock and a bunch of other big financial firms getting into the space, going directly to companies, sidestepping the regulated bank sector, who is retrenched from that since the financial crisis. And it's just ballooning. I mean, the market right now is worth $1.6 trillion, and it is expected to double in the next 4 years to $3 trillion. Look, and $3 trillion in 2030. It was worth $41 billion in 2000. So it really has exploded over the last 3 decades. Now, it is small compared to the total loans held by U.S. banks, which is $12.5 trillion. So it's about 25% of that. But it is exploding, and you're seeing even more traditional banks get into it as well.
Well, one of the reasons why this market has traditionally been a little bit untouched is that institutions historically have kind of looked at these private assets as an alternative asset class, something that is a little too risky, whereas public loans are safer. But a lot of people have been looking at that and saying, what if that assumption is just basically wrong? Borrowers still want cheap money. Investors still want great returns. Why does it matter exactly where that loan is coming from, whether it was made by a bank or whether it was made by someone like HPS? So some people think that in a few years, we won't even be talking about public credit versus private credit anymore. It will just be one big mismatch. And I think what you're going to see is BlackRock accelerate that mismatch because it has access to these big private or public loan portfolio now. And I think it's going to start integrating it after this acquisition of HPS. Up next, the forbidden names ChatGPT refuses to say.
Many people have attempted to, quote, break the internet over the years, but one person seems to have finally broken ChatGPT. His name is David Mayer. And who is he? No one has any idea. But over the weekend, Reddit sleuths found that when you type the name David Mayer into ChatGPT, anything mentioning this name prompts ChatGPT to shut down, responding either, I'm unable to produce a response, or there was an error generating a response before terminating the session. Hordes of people tried to solve this truly beguiling mystery, and a number of theories spread online. And then a plot twist. It was discovered that David Mayer isn't the only guy who ChatGPT can't handle. Other guys named Brian Hood, Jonathan Turley, Jonathan Zittrain, David Faber, and Guido Scorza, when typed into ChatGPT, caused a similar blocking mechanism. After staying silent for days, OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, finally responded to the controversy, claiming that the Mayer problem was due to a system glitch. A spokesperson said, "One of our tools mistakenly flagged this name and prevented it from appearing in responses, which it shouldn't have. We are working on a fix." Toby, I don't think this is going to satisfy the sleuths out there. What in the large language model is going on?
Well, there was a lot of conspiracy theories. A lot of people thought it was referring to David Mayer de Rothschild, which is part of that, legendary Rothschild family. He actually talked to The Guardian and said it has nothing to do with him, and it was just conspiracy theorizing because his family's name kind of gets a lot of play online. The real answer might be closer to just internet privacy laws. OpenAI's policies in Europe makes it clear that you can actually delete your private data from its products. It's known as the quote right to be forgotten. So some people were thinking that maybe David Mayer was just this enterprising individual who said, I really don't want my name appearing in any of these models, as with these other people. But there are some interesting ties to ChatGPT from other people. One potential thread is that Brian Hood, for example, was this Australian mayor who ChatGPT falsely described as perpetrating a crime, something that he had actually reported, not the crime. He didn't carry it out himself. So maybe it's one of those things that behind the scenes, ChatGPT and OpenAI were interfacing with these people saying, hey, we will remove you because our models falsely slandered you in the past. So it really did open up a box of worms here, or a can of worms here. And I think OpenAI would rather pin it all on a glitch rather than truly revealing what is going on behind the scenes here.
Yeah, I mean, the key here is all of these people somewhat have something in common. I feel like I'm Charlie from, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like looking at that wall and trying to pin it all together. But there is a common thread in that a lot of these people had ChatGPT say something not very nice about them. Jonathan Turley, that guy at GW, was a Fox News commentator. ChatGPT made up false claims about him last year, and it cited a Washington Post article that never existed. Jonathan Zittrain is an expert on what we talked about, the right to be forgotten, which you are able to do in Europe. Guido Scorza is on the board at Italy's Data Protection Authority. So it seems like it's possible. These people all reached out to ChatGPT after realizing that ChatGPT got some things wrong about some of them and slandered them, saying, can you guys please, OpenAI, under GDPR, the EU's data privacy rule, can you please take me off? But it does raise interesting questions. That is not necessarily a glitch that OpenAI was talking about, but it does raise interesting questions about these names or keywords that can cause ChatGPT to shut down. Just let's say I'm building a website and I don't want OpenAI to be trained on my website. What if I just write like David Mayer in the middle of it, and then it won't function? So interesting questions on privacy, the right to be forgotten, how manipulable these large language models are.
Yeah, it's just a reminder that these AI models are not these magic things that always produce the answers that you want. They are basically just fancy autocomplete things that predict what the next word is going to be written out. And so every time you think about you're getting facts from this chatbot, always remember that it is something that is pinned together by humans, a model that was kind of molded probably by humans behind the scenes as well. So they're not just this spit out magic answers box like people treat them as. Now let's sprint to the finish with some other headlines you should know about. Vietnamese real estate tycoon Truong My Lan is in a deadly race against time to raise $9 billion in order to escape the death penalty after losing her appeal yesterday against a sentence for embezzling $12.5 billion over the span of a decade. This case is wild. While working at Saigon Commercial Bank, Lan was accused of using shell companies to write over 2,500 loans to herself, friends, and family. Given the sheer size of the fraud, the amount stolen was equivalent to about 3% of Vietnam's 2022 GDP. Lan was sentenced to death in a trial earlier this year. but Vietnam's laws do allow a death sentence to be downgraded to life in prison if 3/4 of the estimated losses are returned, which in this case comes out to $9 billion. Neil, is this even possible for her to pull off?
So it appears that authorities have not seized her assets. They've just frozen them. And she was, as you mentioned, a real estate tycoon. So she has luxury properties all over Ho Chi Minh City that theoretically she could offload. I have no idea whether those amount to $9 billion. She also owns shares and stakes in other businesses. And allegedly, she's also reached out to friends and family to help her out. Do I know whether these are going to add up to $9 billion in this race against the executioner, which is absolutely wild? I don't know, but it appears like she does have some avenues, but her lawyers are arguing that this negotiating process for selling these assets could be marred a bit because I don't know if you've ever negotiated with someone, but I've never negotiated with someone on death row. You can probably get a better deal out of them than you could with somebody in a better leveraging position.
Yeah, her lawyers are trying to say, hey, we do have the cash, we do have the assets here, but it's going to require time and effort to sell. And as you mentioned, you're probably not going to get a great deal at the negotiating table when you have your back against the wall, as she does.
Is Donald Trump Jr. the new roaring kitty? Every company the president-elect's son joined recently has enjoyed a massive spike in its share price following the announcement of his involvement. Just yesterday, shares of the small online marketplace Public Square jumped 270% in a single day on news that Donald Jr. was joining its board of directors. As of Monday's close, it was worth $72 million. Now it's valued at $265 million. The company describes itself as a woke-free marketplace connecting shoppers with businesses that, quote, refuse to succumb to the progressive ideology overtaking corporate America. And Toby, it's not the first stock to benefit from Don Jr.'s involvement.
Yeah, last week he joined the board of Unusual Machines, which was this very small U.S. drone component maker, and those shares jumped as much as 100%. So yeah, you are seeing DJT become this almost conservative roaring kitty. I do just want to drill into the fact that PSQ is a micro cap stock. It's got a market capitalization of only $265 million, but its revenue was $6.5 million, operating losses of $14 million. I couldn't help but compare it to the elder Trump's company, Trump Media and Technology Group. Remember, it reported third quarter earnings of just $1 million in third quarter revenue and a $19 million loss, but PSQ is worth about $260 million. DJT is worth about $7.3 billion. So I guess there is still a Trump delta when it comes to junior versus senior. Pizza Hut is in its Eat, Pray, Love era, unveiling a new design concept as it aims to reinvent itself in the image of its more successful fast casual brothers. At a revamped restaurant in Plano, Texas, the chain has introduced a central Chipotle-esque pizza making station where customers can watch their pies being made. The redesign also includes modern interiors with touchscreen kiosks, heated cabinets for pickup orders, and a drive-thru featuring a Hut and Go menu aimed at reducing wait times. Neil, I remember going to Pizza Hut as a kid with those weird red hut roofs. It was mainly a sit-down joint at this time, but it is far from just a sit-down joint at this point.
Yeah, Domino's has changed this industry. You used to go out to pizza and sit there and eat it. And now that seems like somewhat a foreign concept unless you're going to the Big Three in New Haven, which was the last time I actually sat down at a pizza place. But now you just take it out. There's been a commodification of pizza thanks to Domino's, thanks to Papa John's, and Pizza Hut is obviously riding this wave. It's introducing all these, snazzy mobile ordering kiosks in its stores like you would find entering a McDonald's. So this is a new era, but we're also seeing a pattern of chains putting the actual food making process out in front of people. That seems like a pattern. I mean, Subway, as part of its reinvention, wanted to get those deli slicers out from wherever behind the scenes where it was doing it and actually slice meat in front of people. So that is another pattern that we're seeing in terms of the fast casual space because this is a hyper-competitive industry and Pizza Hut is not doing so well. Its parent company did experience a 1% decline in sales in the most recent quarter. Finally, what internet rabbit holes did y'all fall down this year? We know now after Wikipedia released its 25 most popular pages of 2024. The U.S. elections, celebrities, and pop culture dominated the list, as well as Indian politics and sports. Here are the top 5 Wikipedia articles from last year as ranked by page views. Number 1, deaths in 2024. Number 2, Kamala Harris. Number 3, the 2024 United States presidential election. Number 4, Lyle and Eric Menendez. Number 5, Donald Trump. A few other things I want to call out. The deaths in X year page is an absolute dynasty, having never fallen below third place since the list began in 2015. ChatGPT, which was number 1 in 2023, fell to number 12 this year, and Indian Premier League cricket at number 6 was way more popular than the 2024 Summer Olympics at number 14.
Yeah, some names I am surprised that didn't make the top 25. I was just going back through the year and thinking of the big stories. Caitlin Clark feels like it was a huge year for her, but didn't crack the top 25. No one from the NFL or NBA either. There were soccer players, Ronaldo and Messi. Those are also two stalwarts on the list, but I guess not big enough globally. And then, of course, Neil, you made fun of me at the beginning of the show for not making 30 under 30. I didn't see Neil Freiman, International Man of Mystery, on that list. I don't even think you have a Wikipedia page.
I don't have a Wikipedia. That's fine. I'm a nobody. One thing I do want to mention is the power of Netflix. So the Menendez brothers, which there was a Netflix documentary about recently, were number 4, the number 4 most viewed Wikipedia page across the entire world last year. And then there was another Netflix subject, Griselda Blanco is a Colombian drug trafficker that had a Netflix miniseries about her. She was in the top 25 as well. And then I remember in 2022, the number 1 person that year, the number 1 page was Jeffrey Dahmer.
It made me.
So Netflix is extremely powerful at moving culture.
Yeah, it made me actually think that I need to renew my Netflix subscription because, I didn't watch the Menendez brother. I had never heard of Griselda Blanco as well. So maybe I am missing out on a decent chunk of culture.
That is all the time we have. Thanks so much for listening and have a wonderful Wednesday. For any questions, comments, or feedback, send an email to morningbrew@morningbrew.com. If you find that Morning Brew Daily helps you stay up to date with the world, then make like Paul Revere and spread the word to a friend, family, or coworker. It doesn't have to be in Boston, who you think might enjoy it too. For a specific sharing idea, here's Toby.
I want you to share the pod with one of your siblings today. Probably your sister, though, because it is my sister Hannah's birthday today. So show your sister some love because, big sisters make the world go round. Send them this podcast and also send some good birthday vibes Hannah's way.
Let's roll the credits. Emily Milliron is our executive producer. Raymond Liu is our producer. Olivia Graham is our associate producer. Uchenua Ogu is our technical director. Billy Menino is on audio. Hair and makeup is looking for David Mayer. Devin Emery is our chief content officer, and our show is a production of Morning Brew.
Great show today, Neil. Let's run it back tomorrow.